It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Police review 3 further incidents as a man is charged with 11 counts of attempted murder following the knife attack on a train in Cambridgeshire. 4 people are injured as a train travelling at 80 miles an hour is derailed after hitting a landslide. Also tonight. The killing fields of Al Fasher, a special report into how military officers fled the besieged Sudanese city, leaving civilians and their own soldiers to die. The only survivor who walked away from the Air India crash in the summer tells Sky News of his ongoing trauma. Nigel Farage sets out his plans to reform the economy but backtracks on election manifesto pledges for substantial tax cuts. And a welcome fit for a carnival king. Prince William proves a hit on Copacabana Beach as he begins a 5-day visit to Brazil. Plus, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages. That is coming up in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Hello, good evening. Police reveal tonight they are reviewing a further 3 incidents, including the stabbing of a 14-year-old boy after a man was charged in connection with a knife attack on a train in Cambridgeshire on Saturday night. 32-year-old Anthony Williams from Peterborough was remanded in custody after appearing in court charged with 11 counts of attempted murder. He's also been charged in relation to an incident on London's Docklands Light Railway in the early hours of the same day. The Home Secretary has confirmed that he was not known to the security services. Our crime correspondent, Martin Brunt, has tonight's first report.
This was the arrest of suspect Anthony Williams, British and 32 years old, held by armed police in the car park of Huntingdon Station. Less than 48 hours later, Williams was brought to court to face 14 charges. It was a brief hearing. Dressed in a grey tracksuit, Williams was handcuffed and flanked by 4 guards. For most of the hearing, he had his head bowed, speaking softly to confirm his name. When he was asked for his address, he said of no fixed abode. He didn't ask for bail. He's charged with 10 attempted murders from Saturday night's train attack and possession of a knife. He's also accused of assaulting a police officer after his arrest. An incident at a station in East London earlier on Saturday prompted a second set of charges. Williams is accused of attempted murder and knife possession there. A man allegedly suffered facial injuries. Police said they were looking at other potentially linked crimes, 3 in Peterborough on Friday and Saturday. At a barber's, there were 2 reported sightings of a man with a knife. Police didn't go to the first sighting. The second time, they did search, but couldn't find the suspect. In the city centre on Friday night, a 14-year-old boy was stabbed by a man and later discharged from hospital. Police couldn't find the suspect. In a statement, Cambridgeshire Police said, "We are currently reviewing all incidents in the time frame to understand whether there were any further potential offences." British Transport Police retain primacy for the overall investigation, which will include these 3 incidents. We voluntarily referred ourselves to the Independent Office for Police Conduct for independent scrutiny of these incidents, as is standard practice in these cases. The train where the stabbing happened was finally driven away to a depot, the forensic examination completed. One of the train staff, seriously injured and hailed as a hero for confronting the attacker, was still in hospital, but stable. In the House of Commons, the Home Secretary spoke about the tragedy.
The sickening act of the man who committed this crime was the very worst of humanity. But the actions of those who responded, who ran towards danger to save the lives of people they did not know, was the very best of us. I know we all share in paying tribute to their extraordinary bravery today.
Scumbag! Anthony Williams was driven away from court after his hearing, past an angry crowd. He'll be back in court on the 1st of December. Martin Brunt, Sky News, Peterborough.
Well, the stabbing attack in Cambridgeshire has sparked calls for greater security on the rail network. The Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, has ruled out installing airport-style security scanners at stations. Sky's Ashna Hurnag has been looking at what else could be done to improve safety on the UK's trains.
Monday's commute came with added concern. At major stations around the UK, from Glasgow to London, armed officers and extra patrols on the concourse, as the events of Saturday night in Huntingdon weighed heavy on the minds of many, including grandparents Tracy and Darren Tabor. They took the very same train service from Yorkshire on Sunday for a concert. Events of the night before almost made them cancel their plans.
We travelled down from Yorkshire and we was absolutely terrified, and we got on the same train that it happened on, so we had to come through there to get to London to see a show. But we thought, no, we're not going to not do it, we are going to go through with it. But we are scared, I'm not going to lie, we are really scared.
It makes you worried about, like, your safety. Are you safe on the trains? No, you're not. You're not
safe anywhere.
The daily grind of those passing through London's King's Cross, now punctured by caution and trepidation.
Just wouldn't expect it, like you really wouldn't expect it. And I'm not saying you would expect it on tubes, but you always do go back to things that's happened on tubes. I don't feel that emotional about it. It's because it does give you really bad anxiety.
I know there's like other emergencies that police might be needed, but it's always nice to have like a police presence just anywhere, really.
That nervousness, not unfounded. Incidents of passengers and public assaults increased over the last 4 years on the main line and is now at a record high. There were over 10,200 assaults to passengers or members of the public in the latest year, an increase of 7% compared to the previous year.
The anxiety around train travel, therefore, is understandable. The majority of assaults involved harassment rather than physical violence, but some do believe that additional security measures would be a deterrent.
But the government says any measure on Britain's railways would need to be proportionate.
I don't think airport-style scanners would be the way to go. We have thousands of railway stations across the UK, and those stations have multiple entrances, multiple platforms. So what we can't do is make life impossible for everyone, but we do need to take sensible and proportionate steps to make the public transport network safe.
The increased security presence will last until Tuesday evening. The aim is to provide reassurance, but will 2 days really be enough? Ashna Hurnag, Sky News.
4 people have been left with minor injuries after a passenger train derailed in Cumbria. Avanti West Coast says the derailed train was the 4:28 a.m. service, which had left Glasgow for London Euston. Well, the train came off the tracks at 6:10 a.m. near the village of Shap, between Penrith and Oxenholme, near the Lake District in Cumbria. Our chief North of England correspondent, Greg Marlin, reports now from the scene.
The 4:28 from Glasgow to London, static in the Lake District. The front carriage, you can see, still upright, but derailed. In the darkness of the early morning, travelling at more than 80 miles an hour, the train's thought to have struck a landslide on the tracks. This image shows the result of that impact to the front of the train. More than 80 people were on board at the time. No one was badly injured.
What would appear to be an earthworks issue today will be the heart of our investigation. As I would stress, we put a significant amount of importance and effort into managing our risks around structures, earthworks and extreme weather. That will clearly form part of the investigation and the outputs from it.
The train and its crew performed exactly as they should have done in an incident like this. Passengers were ushered to a nearby hotel. This kind of incident, they say, is exceptionally rare, but this area has seen derailments before, some fatal. And the local MP says there are questions to be answered.
It's an absolute fact that the Network Rail and the Department for Transport have chosen to defer indefinitely the investment north of Crewe, what was called the Tri-Link project, the modernisation programme. And as a consequence, there are regular line closures north of Preston, particularly in North Cumbria and in Scotland, because of this lack of investment. So I'm not saying that has anything to do with the incident today, but it's a reminder that we have a fragile, elderly network here.
The Rail Accident Investigation Branch is now leading the investigation into the derailment. The conditions for those working at the site of this incident are described as challenging. This happened close to the highest point of the West Coast main line. And there are two jobs now: to establish how and why this happened, but also to move that train and get the line open. That, they say, could take several days. Disruption for many, yes, but also relief here at an incident that could have had a very different outcome. Greg Milam, Sky News, Cumbria.
In Sudan, aid agencies are reporting tonight that only a few thousand people have reached camps for displaced people escaping the atrocities carried out by rebel forces in Al Fasher city. Prosecutors for the International Criminal Court have accused the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces of committing possible war crimes in Darfur. Well, let's take a look at how we got here then. On the 26th of October, the RSF claimed to have captured the Sudanese army headquarters in Al Fasher. A day later, Sudan's army chief announced his soldiers would be withdrawing from their last stronghold in Darfur, with the UN warning of potential atrocities. It's estimated 70,000 people left the city in the last week since the RSF took power, many of them women and children, but only 10,000 have been accounted for. A joint investigation by Sky News, Sudan War Monitor and Lighthouse has been trying to find out what happened to those missing people. A warning that this report from our Africa correspondent, Yusra El-Bahir, contains content that some viewers may find distressing.
Tens of thousands fleeing for their lives, stalked by the Rapid Support Forces that captured their city. In this investigation with Sudan War Monitor and Lighthouse reports, we can reveal that the thousands escaping Al Fasher were targeted by the RSF, as the military's top brass secured their own safe passage, leaving civilians and their own troops to their death. Of the masses of people who fled the city so far, more than 60,000 are still unaccounted for, with many feared dead in the killing fields outside of Al Fasher. The tens of thousands expected to flood this safe zone in Tawila are yet to arrive, with survivors detailing the horror of their escape.
Some are asked what their ethnicity is, and they leave them. Others say their ethnicity, and they kill them. They took all of our belongings as we left. My wife and I got to Gurney, and we were held with 400 families. They chose people and executed them in front of us. They kill them in front of you and say, bury your brother, and we just have to pour soil on them. They were killing based on ethnicity. They would come and ask us what our tribes are.
In an effort to find the missing, we traced crowds of civilians on their way out of Al Fasher and found that many of them were captured by the RSF further afield. In this video, we see a group and two men. The first with a yellow hoodie and black jacket walking beside a dirt berm. As men, women, and children walk along, we see another wearing a red turban. In a later video, we see the same group and same two men, one in the same yellow hoodie as the previous footage of civilians leaving Al Fasher, sat on the ground in front of RSF fighters in a crowd we are told had around 2,000 people. That includes the man in the red turban, who's also seen here. They began to run as RSF fighters chased and beat them. They've been separated from the women and children. Of this single group of 2,000 captives, we're told only 200 made it to the nearest displacement center in Tawila. Some sent videos to their families, asking for them to pay ransom.
I am one of the sons of Al Fasher. I left to go to Tawila. I've been held along with other men who were only being released when their families sent money. Those who didn't were executed.
Others are executed on sight. These captured men plead that they have nothing left to steal, as the RSF hurl a racial slur and then shoot them both dead. In another video, we see bodies dumped in a trench. There is at least one woman among the corpses, as more are executed live on camera.
This brutality comes after the RSF encircled, starved, and shelled Al Fasher for over 18 months in their battle with the army for the last capital in Darfur under state control. Several high-level sources told us that top state commanders, officers, and political leaders secured their own safe passage out of the city in over 100 vehicles, some of them armored, leaving civilians and their own troops behind to be captured along with the garrison.
A soldier who was left behind describes an abandoned command. He said the army commander had left the garrison. They completely abandoned us. We were surrounded 26-1 in the morning hours. Suddenly, everything collapsed on us in the defense. We asked what's going on and were told everyone fled. Then the shelling turned on us. A civilian who escaped that morning confirms the chaos. There was no coordination over withdrawal, he says, and it seemed to be a surprise to the remaining fighters on the front line. Some were leaving the city and others were fighting battles with the RSF. In response to our findings, the Sudanese Armed Forces Commander-in-Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan told Sky News that the decision to withdraw was unanimous among the Armed Forces, Regular Forces and the Joint Security Committee, and that battles broke out during the retreat. He added that soldiers were not left behind but were tasked with securing the withdrawal, performing their duty as required. As the remaining soldiers fled in their cars with civilians, RSF drones watched them from the sky. High-resolution satellite imagery captured by Vantor shows burnt vehicles grouped together south of the siege berm. The RSF drone finds it too. And this video we located to the same site shows dozens of bodies, some in fatigues and others in civilian clothes. We've turned them into dust, he says. Fighters celebrate in front of the burn site. A top RSF commander with direct knowledge of the operations told us that at least 7,000 people have been killed in Al-Fashir in the first 5 days of capture by RSF fighters who are systematically targeting civilians from non-Arab tribes and are killing 300 to 400 people at a time. All overseen, he says, by RSF Deputy Commander Abdulrahim Dagalo, who we can see here, filmed in the city shortly after his forces seized it. Our previous reporting backed allegations that the UAE militarily supports the RSF, though the country officially denies it. The spokesman of the RSF's political administration, Ta'sis Ala Nugud, acknowledged atrocities had been committed by their fighters, but told Sky News the harrowing death toll shared by one of their commanders is total rubbish and part of a big fake media campaign, and that the RSF have delivered 50 trucks of humanitarian aid to Al-Fashir. Videos shared on RSF channels show Al-Fashir's emaciated residents receiving food, after months of volunteers and aid workers being killed by RSF fighters while trying to bring in relief. Fears are mounting that around 200,000 people are being held hostage in their own city, with no access to internet or phone signal, surrounded by fields turned into execution zones. In Tawila, the survivors wait for news of their loved ones. But these thin crowds are a dark reminder of all those who didn't survive and never arrived. Here in Darfur, the people are paying the highest price. The abandonment and viciousness of a war they never asked to be fought at their door. Yusra al-Baghir, Sky News.
The Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has set out his party's plans for the economy and appears to have backtracked on election manifesto pledges for substantial tax cuts. Tomorrow, both the Chancellor and the Conservative leader are set to deliver budget-related speeches. But let's bring in our chief political correspondent, John Craig, who's in Westminster. And John, a massive scaling back, it seems, of Reform's tax-cutting promises ahead of what is anticipated to be a tax-increasing budget and what will no doubt be a hard sell for the Labour Party.
What Nigel Farage has said in this speech that he made in the City of London in Canary Wharf is that the previous claim about big tax cuts weren't really a pledge, they were an aspiration. And he says they're now, in the current economic climate, they are not realistic. So yes, that's a change, but there were some new policies from the Reform UK leader. He suggested cutting the minimum wage for younger workers. He talked about getting rid of what he called the lunatic net zero policies of the Labour government and indeed the Tories. And he talked about being on the side of business. Well, which political party doesn't say they're on the side of business? He talked about being on the side of alarm clock Britain, a phrase Nick Clegg used to use when he was in government. But it wasn't just Mr Farage speaking. Here in the House of Commons, the regular Monday night meeting of the Parliamentary Labour Party, a packed meeting heard from the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister was giving his MPs a warning about the budget. And he said the budget will be a Labour budget built on Labour values. But he also talked about tough choices. He said, gave three priorities: protect the public and public services like the NHS, reduce our national debt and improve the cost of living. Now, some MPs saw that as a warning about tax cuts. He went on to talk about Tory austerity. The botched Brexit deal and the pandemic meant that the economy is worse than even we feared, he said. So he talked about Rachel Reeves making tough but fair decisions to renew the economy, Labour choices. Now, in her speech, Rachel Reeves is also going to talk about Labour choices. But clearly, after the Prime Minister last Wednesday refused to repeat that pledge about no increases in income tax, VAT or national insurance, the MPs and the public are being softened up, warned about the state of the economy requiring tax increases. So we might get a little flavour of the tough choices from Rachel Reeves in her speech. Kemi Badenoch's also weighing in on the economy. Whatever happened to budget purdah? I mean, we're still 3 or 4 weeks away and all the parties are talking about the budget, some setting out their policies, like Mr Farage, and Labour in particular warning that it's going to be a tough budget. 24 questions were asked of the Prime Minister, his meeting of the PLP. That shows just how anxious Labour MPs are about Labour's slump at the moment. Will the budget cheer them up? Doesn't look like it.
John, at Westminster, thank you. A pregnant British teenager who was arrested in Georgia on drug smuggling charges earlier this year has been released from prison. Bella Cully, who's 19, was arrested at Tbilisi airport in May and accused of trying to smuggle 14 kilograms of cannabis into the country. She could have faced up to 15 years in jail, but her lawyer told Sky News they made a plea agreement, where she spoke to reporters outside court after her release.
Bella, can you just tell us how you're feeling now that you walked free?
Happy and relieved.
More than 700 police officers will be deployed at Aston Villa's Europa League match against Israeli side Maccabi Tel Aviv on Thursday, despite only Villa fans being allowed to attend. Last month, it was announced that Maccabi fans would be barred from the game over fears of violence, but protests are set to take place on the day regardless. A medieval tower in the heart of Rome has partially collapsed during renovations, seriously injuring at least one worker. Hundreds of tourists in Italy's capital watched the building collapse a second time during rescue attempts by firefighters, which sent a cloud of debris into the air. Well, within the past few minutes, it's been confirmed that a 66-year-old man has been pulled alive from the rubble. The sole survivor of June's Air India crash has told Sky News the trauma he's experienced has left him broken. Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, who you can see here in the immediate aftermath of the crash, was the sole survivor of Air India Flight 171, which crashed just moments after takeoff on the 12th of June. He's been sharing his story with Sky News Mornings presenter Sophie Ridge and described his physical injuries from the crash.
Like knee, shoulder, and back. And some burning in right left arm. But still pain in my body.
And is it hard to go upstairs, to move around?
Yeah.
Do you leave the house? Do you go out? Do you do things?
Just sit on my bed and all day.
Do you watch TV? Is that what you do? Or?
I don't like anything watching. I just think about like my brother and just.
Your brother who died?
He's my younger brother.
What was he like?
He's for me. He's everything for me. Like he's giving me like backbone. He give me all the time. He support me. Still, I'm not believe that is not more.
Well, in a statement, Air India has said we are deeply conscious of our responsibility to provide Mr. Ramesh with support through what must have been an unimaginable period. Care for him and indeed all families affected by the tragedy remains our absolute priority. Senior leaders from across Tata Group continue to visit families to express their deepest condolences. An offer has been made to Mr. Ramesh's representatives to arrange such a meeting. We will continue to reach out and we very much hope to receive a positive response. Prince William has been bestowed with the keys to Rio de Janeiro, an honour typically reserved for the city's Carnival King, as he begins a 5-day visit to Brazil. The Prince of Wales will visit some of the city's most iconic sites before attending the Earthshot Awards on Wednesday evening, and then the annual UN climate meeting, COP30. A warning: this report from our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills in Rio, does contain some flash photography.
The welcome must have made a nice change after a noisy and difficult few weeks. The Mayor of Rio, William's guide, on the iconic Sugarloaf Mountain, showing him the sights and, in a rare moment, handing him the keys to the city. On a day the palace wanted to be all about the big picture and not his Uncle Andrew.
They will be doing everything that they possibly can over the coming days to try and avoid any mention of that name, partly by taking William to all of the big, iconic sites and keeping everything as upbeat as possible.
With a close eye on what people think of the institution right now, it was a friendly crowd, security still tight around him.
We are very happy to have him here. It's a big honor for the city. So he's got the keys, he can do whatever he wants in the next 72 hours. The city belongs to Prince William. I'm still the king, but it will belong to him.
It is his Earthshot prize that William really wants to take centre stage this week, and this is why.
We need a bit of courage in the system. You guys are providing that low down, but up top, I think we need a bit more courage.
Giving him a hand to raise the profile, Brazilian legend Cafu at the Maracanã Stadium, holy ground when you're a football fan like William. A kick around on the pitch, not just on his wish list, but a surefire hit with the younger audience he's aiming to keep on side. And that's why a quick change and a trip to Copacabana Beach was all part of important image building.
This may feel like an unusual setting for it, but this week they really want to cement in our minds William as a global leader, knowing that people expect him to be socially engaged and progressive, even on issues around his own family.
A few weeks ago, he signalled that he's not afraid to shake things up when one day he becomes king. Now as heir, he's got a week to try and bat away those negative headlines. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News in Rio.
Well, now to the hunt for Frankie, the missing flamingo. People across Cornwall are being asked to help in the search for a young female flamingo who's escaped from a wildlife sanctuary. Oh dear, apologies, Kevin Maguire sat down and is laughing with me. Despite having her feathers clipped, it's believed she took flight from Paradise Park near Hale on Sunday and was spotted later in the day, 13 miles away.
So as a spotter, you would see her, if you see her flying, you'll see her legs out the back and you'll see her neck stretched out at the front. And that's the way the flamingos fly. So that's how you'd spot her. And obviously she's this dappled grey colour with a pink head and a very sort of bent beak.
You weren't helping there at all, I have to say. Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we will be taking a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, as you can see, joined by the political commentator Adam Bolton and the Daily Mirror columnist Kevin Maguire. Welcome to both of you. And among the stories we'll be discussing this on the front page of the Financial Times. The headline, Starmer signals tough but fair budget will opt for higher taxes over austerity. More on that in just a moment.